What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Taurean Rain Reloaded channel. If you are new, please be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also be sure to hit the bell and have your notifications turned on to all devices, including mobile. Also be sure to like, comment, and share this content on your various social media platforms. Before I get started with this, I have to give a shout out to TD Hip Hop Media, because if it wasn't for him doing a video about what I'm about to talk about right now, I would not have known that this had even existed. And when I saw this, it just like literally pissed me off. And I never thought it would got to the point where I would do a Blackarin video on this chick. Now I know what you're thinking. Taurean, how are you going to do a Blackarin video on a woman that's not even technically black? I'm just going with the flow because I couldn't come up with another name for it. I tried different variations, but none of them were really hitting for me as creative as I can be with some of these names. So we're just going to go with it. I might just put Blackarin in quotations for her. We'll just do it, leave it like that. But the reason why I'm giving her or throwing her into the archives, the Blackarin archives, is because Kamala the chameleon has come out and spoke about, abortion, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, like many people have been bandwagoning on for the last couple of weeks. But she went above and beyond to make a fool of herself when she decided to say or compare the abortion ruling to slavery. Huh? That's not even remotely possible to compare the two. They have no comparison whatsoever. Like, slavery was not a choice, at least not for my ancestors. It wasn't a choice. A woman choosing to get an abortion, that is a choice. Now, I always say when it came to this particular topic, for me, if a woman was violated, then okay. If it's a medical thing, okay. But if she's just going out there just to do it, she's choosing at this point. She's really choosing at this point. The other two, when you think about it, are choices as well, but those are choices that I will accept as, okay, I can see why you did that. But when it comes to you just getting an abortion and just turning your womb into a graveyard, then that's when I look at you with the side eye. Just like I'm looking at her with the side eye with this comment talking about how this is compared to slavery when it's really not. Then she went on to try to say that it claims ownership over human bodies, when we know that's definitely not. If she was going to speak out about this, she could have left that part out. And I think it's very interesting that she brings up slavery, considering that she was the one that came out a while back in that infamous video where she was saying that she wouldn't do anything specifically for black people. Or when we bring up about reparations and tangibles, she turns that down just like everybody else seems to do. But she will extend an arm out to every other group. This woman isn't even black, no matter how much they try to shoehorn her in there. So what, she went to Howard. It's a lot of non-black people that have gone to Howard, but they don't go around here claiming to be black. But some people fell for her shtick, hook, line, and sinker. Then when I was watching CD's video and she was doing that Kwanzaa video, oh, it's more cringe. I swear, this woman, every time she opens up her mouth and every time she does that goofy grin, cringe fest is all I get from her. And fake, fraud, phony, bogus is what I get from her as well. But I'm going to go ahead and read this article that's coming from CNBC. It was posted July 18th, 2022. Vice President Kamala Harris, or I call her Kamala the chameleon, on Monday compared the recent Supreme Court ruling overturning a constitutional right to abortion to America's history of slavery, saying our country has a history of claiming ownership over human bodies. And what I think was even more egregious about this whole thing is when you have people want to claim slavery when it benefits them, and I'm talking about these other groups, when it can benefit something that they're mad at. But if we try to claim our reparations and tangibles because of slavery, then they act like slavery didn't exist. Apparently, it must have been a figment of our imaginations. After all, these are some of the same people that want to claim that the aliens dropped the pyramids out of the sky because they don't want to give claim or reference or credence to the people who actually did build the pyramids. But these are some of also the same people that think that Elvis is still alive too. So yeah, it's a lot of psychological profiling going on. Harris's scathing analogy came in a speech at the NAACP's 113th convention, where also she blasted many of the so-called leaders of the anti-abortion movement for being the same ones who were passing laws to restrict the ability to vote on state laws that could make it easier to terminate pregnancies. The Supreme Court on June 24th overturned its 49-year-old ruling in the case known as Roe v. Wade, which had legalized abortion in the entire United States. The decision is expected to lead to abortion being banned outright or more severely restricted in nearly half of U.S. states. In her speech in Atlantic City, New Jersey, before the Civil Rights Organization, Harris cited the name of Thurgood Marshall, the first black person to serve on the Supreme Court. Harris is the first woman to be elected vice president and also the first, and I don't know why they even, see, you know how I don't like that terminology, people of color? For her, they can use that because I don't want her classified as black. So I'm actually going to break my rule and go against what this article is stating, because they have her listed down as black. So I'm going to say she is also the first woman of color to hold that office. Think about it. For the first time in generations, the United States Supreme Court, the highest court of our land, the former court of Thurgood Marshall, took away a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America, from the women of America, Harris said. We know the NAACP that our country has a history of claiming ownership over human bodies, Harris is said to applause. Keep in mind, this is the same woman that claimed that when she went to South Carolina during the elections to get Jimbo Bojangles Clyburn back in office, that when she got off the plane, she went and got 2 grocery bag fulls of collard greens. The same person. And today, extremists, so-called leaders, are criminalizing doctors and punishing women for making healthcare decisions for themselves. Personal decisions that it is her right to make in consultation with her doctor, her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her loved ones, not her government telling her what to do, she added. And these so-called leaders, so-called claiming that, well, we just think that this is the decision that should make. We just think that this is a decision that should be made by the folks in the states. People in the states can vote on this, the vice president said. Right? But at this moment, many of those same so-called leaders are the same ones who are passing laws to restrict the ability of people to vote. At a briefing later Monday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, or as Professor Black Truth calls her, Karine Stud Pierre, I'm laughing at just thinking about it, said she had not seen Harris's comments. But Jean-Pierre also said she is correct. Today's decisions are criminalizing doctors and essentially taking the rights away from women, taking the freedom away from women, really taking away people's privacy. And I find it interesting that this is coming from her, considering how giddy she was when an Asian K-pop band came there when they were discussing anti-Asian hate, and how her facial expressions kind of looked like she got hit by an electric shock when someone brought up reparations at one of those meetings. You should have saw the look on her face. You thought she was glitching. She looked like she glitched. That does matter, and that is important, the spokeswoman said. And that concludes the article right there. Listen, this woman is as fake as a $3 bill in a Monopoly board game set. And good luck finding one, because we all know when it comes to the Monopoly board game set, there is no $3 in there. But for her to sit up there and compare that to slavery, there is no comparison. I don't know why people continue to do that, and then at the same time act like slavery was, one, so long ago, two, that it wasn't that big of a deal. Let those Texas that new whatever that they got rolling out down there, the video I just did, they try to say that slavery should be now known as, was it involuntary relocation or some BS like that? Remember before that, there was the McGraw-Hill books that they were trying to release to try to say that slavery, like it was voluntary. Yeah. So you have people that claim that slavery was so long ago, or making it seem like it wasn't so bad, or, but the thing of the matter is, It was that bad, and it wasn't that long ago. And the effects of that are still played out systemically today, to this day. And even beyond that, even the after effects of slavery are still being felt to this day. But no one who's in the position to do so wants to rectify that by paying FBA, Foundational Black Americans, what they are owed off of the backs of their ancestors. And it's funny because didn't the enslavers get some kind of monetary contribution for the quote unquote loss of labor being our ancestors? I believe they got compensated. Meanwhile, our ancestors didn't get nothing. They got promised 40 acres and a mule. They didn't get not 1 acre or a mule. But what I find interesting and what I give kudos to our ancestors for is that they persevered after that, built up many black towns. Unfortunately, this jealous establishment, this very green-eyed, envied establishment we live in, known as America, via the United States, destroyed it. Had to hinder it somehow. So when you take all of what I just said and a whole lot more of what I did not say and what history has provided and told us, and you think about what she said, there is no comparison. So for her to let that come out of her mouth is very egregious. But then again, this is a woman that is not FBA. She's not black. Even if she is non-FBA, she is of Indian heritage. The only thing close to her blackness is the fact that she went to Howard University and she pledged a Divine Nine sorority. That's about it. Everything else about her, there's no blackness there. So what, she wore some Chuck Taylors, or she wore some Timberlands, or she danced off beat to Cardi B, or she's talking about her family celebrating Kwanzaa, or she went to Howard University, or she pledged AKA. That defines blackness now? That's how low the bar is? And I'm talking to black people right now that was literally was on and probably still currently is on the Kamala Harris train. I wonder what that Kenny Walden, I can't go to his page now because he's been since blocking me. He actually did me and so many more favor when we exposed him. I wonder how he feels about her comments. He probably is going to gloss over it because, like I said, his whole page is a shrine to her. That man has no other, he does nothing but hang off of her, off of the little strands of hair. You know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because I have to realize at the end of the day, even though we have vitriol towards her, again, she still holds a position. But if y'all could read my mind, y'all could probably pretty much guess what I was getting ready to say. But yeah, this was a very fake and phony response from her. It probably hurt her to even say that. For her to say this was probably the equivalent of passing a kidney stone. And from what I've heard, passing a kidney stone is extremely painful, especially for a guy, because there's only one way that it can be passed through, and that's through, well, if you know, you know. I'm going to just leave it at that. But yeah, she earned her spot in the quote unquote black, and I have to put quotes around her because we know she ain't black. This woman does not claim her blackness. She had to be forced to claim her blackness. What does that tell you? And I'm talking to all, people of the K-Hive or whatever they choose to call themselves. That's crazy to me. I think, and this is probably my last point, I think what else pisses me off about this is because this woman, like I said, has no lineage to FBA. So it is very easy for her to come out of her mouth and actually use slavery, which has pretty much impacted our ancestors completely, as a prop in order to pedestalize this whole overturning of Roe v. Wade. Now imagine if an FBA person was in her position and compare whatever atrocities that she, as a woman of Indian heritage or Indian Asian heritage or whatever else she got going on in her, because it's not FBA at all. Imagine if they did the same thing she did and used their atrocities as a prop or a tool to pedestalize an issue going on in America. How would she feel?